It starts as a subtle panic, a phantom itch in the pocket, the sudden automated urge to reach for a glowing screen in the dark signals a modern compulsion to check for unread messages and verify our place in the digital tribe. This anxiety feeds an ancient psychological archetype known as the hungry ghost, a manifestation of our inherent longing for certainty and approval. Every time we reach for the next hit of an endless feed, we are making a psychological offering. We pour our attention into the void, mistaking engineered notification chimes for genuine connection. The deep digital exhaustion that marks the end of a modern day signals that an unslakable psychological archetype has been feeding on your attention. The hungry ghost is depicted with a massive, empty belly, but a throat the size of a needle's eye. When we try to soothe our anxiety by scrolling, we are trying to force an ocean of data through that tiny aperture.
The energy flows out of us, but the bowl remains bottomless. The moment we grasp at a piece of content, a new text, a breaking headline, a flashing image, it dissolves into smoke, offering no actual psychological sustenance. This loop occurs because the technology in our pockets is deliberately designed to hijack our biological hardware. By turning to pixels for comfort, we are actively turning our own evolutionary survival instincts against ourselves. To see how this works, we have to look inside the brain during a moment of digital temptation. Deep inside the brain's architecture sits a cluster of neurons called the nucleus accumbens. The nucleus accumbens is the brain's reward center. For millions of years, its job was to track essential survival metrics by releasing dopamine, a chemical messenger that drives motivation, whenever we secured food, reproduction, or social status. Engineered digital stimuli push this ancient dopamine loop past its natural capacity. The circuit flares with intense artificial urgency. As that reward center lights up, the prefrontal cortex, the area behind your forehead responsible for logic, reasoning, and self-control, loses energy and dims. This creates a neurological imbalance. The brain is flooded with pure driving impulse, completely stripped of its logical restraint. Digital addiction acts as a mechanical override of the brain's checks and balances, rendering sheer willpower ineffective against biological structure. Beyond the immediate chemical spike, repeated digital cravings carve physical changes into the brain's architecture. This excerpt on the mechanics of craving notes that the repeated firing of these circuits carves deep, semi-permanent neural trenches in the brain. The genetic consequence follows. Our digital environment literally downregulates our biological receptors for satisfaction. Because the brain has physically adapted to constant extreme stimulation, the nervous system panics the moment you disconnect. The altered brain perceives a lack of input as a threat. The simple act of being present now feels like actual physical deprivation. The hungry ghost wears your physical neurology as armor, turning inner peace into a biological state of starvation. The only viable counter-strategy to this biological siege is to turn directly toward the discomfort rather than escaping it. This is awake attention, the practice of witnessing the craving and naming it without taking any physical action. The initial physical sensation is intense. Refusing to offer digital pixels to that rising panic feels like walking into a fire. Naming the hungry ghost directly changes how the brain processes the impulse, shrinking the overwhelming anxiety down to a manageable size. Neurological victory arrives by identifying the impulse and withholding the fear and outrage it requires to survive. To rebuild the brain's architecture, we rely on neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new connections. We use a principle known as taking in the good. This requires deliberately savoring the microspaces between cravings by focusing on physical anchors, like cool air in the nostrils or the stable ground beneath your feet. Each micro moment of presence is converted into structural change, bridging the dark trenches of addiction with new, healthy connections. Repeated savoring converts a fleeting mental state of calm into a hardwired neurological trait. By offering our own minds presence instead of pixels, we physically rewire our brains, transforming an unslackable enemy into an ally. This is how we finally taste true freedom.